Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we're going to have a look, of course, it was bound to come, about yesterday's attempted repeal of the hate crime bill. We all know it failed, alas. But it wasn't through the lack of trying. And we all know that out there in the country, most people don't want it. They think it's a waste of time, effort, money, police resources, everything. It is an absolute mess. Brought in under the guise of a hate crime act, but we all know it really only is an Islamic Blasphemy law. That's all this is. He was told to bring it in by the guys from the mosque, and he couldn't just bring it straight in like they wanted. He had to dress it up within the hate crime act, and he's created so many anomalies, and it's just basically a failure. But then so's he. Eventually, when the SNP are cast out of power, which hopefully will be in 2026, if not before, it will then go. But it's amazing who still votes for it. There was an awful lot of people who have publicly said that, yes, it's a mess, and yet yesterday refused to vote against it. There's an awful lot of hypocrisy. There's some that stood firm, and we look at Fergus Uing, for example, and I'm going to do a little aside on him within the video. But let's take a look and see why it failed and who's to blame. Here goes. So Humza Yousaf's Hate Crimes Act is a dog's dinner, but only the Scots Tories are brave enough to repeal it. Well, they're the only ones who voted against it the first time round, and they're more or less the only ones who voted against it this time round, it must be said. Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross says his party gave MSPs from Labour and the Lib Dems a chance to vote for the legislation to be repealed, but they shamefully failed to grasp the opportunity. Now that tells you at the next election that both Labour and the Lib Dems are parties that want to limit free speech, that don't want you to have the ability to say what you think or hold opinions that are contrary to whatever party is leading, and that they want effectively to criminalise conversations within your privacy of your own home. These people are controlists. They are extremists. They are no different, I suppose, from employing thought police. That's what they do. They want thought police. You have to now start wondering why you would even vote Labour or Lib Dem now when you see what they're planning for you. They're no different from the SNP. No longer do you have free speech in Scotland under any of the parties, with the exception of the Tories, or Reform if they ever stand in Scotland. They want to control your thoughts. They want to control your words. How dare they? How dare they, in a modern Western democracy, close down conversations, close down the expression of ideas, make you conform to what they say is right, regardless of your view or opportunity on it. They're all in it together. Humza Yousaf's Hate Crime Act has been in operation for just over a fortnight, and it is already obvious that it is every bit as badly botched as previous SNP legislations, such as the Named Person Scheme and the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act, both of which had to be scrapped. In fact, it was clear almost instantly, on April Fool's Day, with grim irony, the day this ridiculous law came in, the police were immediately deluged with complaints. They've had almost 10,000 now, and Police Scotland have committed themselves to investigating every single one. Police Scotland have not committed themselves. The law itself commits Police Scotland. Let's not be changing what's actually said here. The law itself commits the police to investigate them. This is a dreadful use of police time and resources, which has already been dangerously run down under the SNP, to the point that it's official policy not to pursue a whole host of actual offences, including fraud. I wonder why they put that one on the list. Sneaky, eh? It speaks volumes about Humza Yousaf's view of justice that Scotland's police are expected to concentrate on hurtful tweets and remarks made in private homes, while potentially letting housebreaking, vandalism, vehicle theft, and even assault go uninvestigated. But when it comes to this legislation, the First Minister is even more inconsistent than usual. He's attempted to defend it by saying that it's urgently needed, but that it also doesn't really make much of a difference to the change of laws that have been around since the mid-1980s. How can it be urgently needed if it doesn't change anything? Hamza Yousaf is an absolute retard, isn't he? But of course it's got nothing to do with hate. This is all just blasphemy. It's a blasphemy law. He says it's no different from laws that exist in England and Wales. Oh, but it is. Massively. He protests, but that's something that cannot be true when the wording and sense differs materially. The Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, Ronnie Dunlop KC, pointed out that this is nonsense, but SNP ministers apparently know better. They don't know anything. Except they don't, of course. Much of the confusion and disorder around the law stems from the fact that the ministers have been given contradictory and misleading accounts of it. Their fumbling attempts to explain it have been clueless and inconsistent, like the First Minister. Angela Constance, Hamza Yousaf's Justice Secretary, had to admit as much in Parliament. Indeed, we did the video yesterday saying that she was basically admitting that it was something that nobody could understand. It was an abject failure, and that it was confusing, and it was rushed in. It wasn't examined. It was put through basically as secondary legislation. There was very little committee work on it. And so that's why it's coming in. It's so appalling. And that's why women are not protected. Oh, quick, we've got to... But of course, they make it out as though they forgot about putting women in. And we know it isn't. Women were, sex is not a protected characteristic deliberately, so that they cannot then use this hate crime law to say that men cannot enter female safe spaces or changing rooms. It was done deliberately and cynically and then presented in a different way. Oh, but we're going to bring in a misogyny law. But no, misandry law. Yes, I did correct myself off the other day. I admit my mistake and I apologise. But misandry is just as bad as misogyny, but is not worthy of a law apparently. However, the weird thing, and as J.K. Rowling herself pointed out, funny how you can have misogyny, when a woman can moan about a man and then the woman can be convicted of misogyny. Doesn't make sense. But then this is Hamza Yousaf, Scotland. You're through the looking glass. Nothing makes sense. Now, I'm not going to go on with this. They too much more, because they all voted it down. The Lib Dems and Labour all said, no. And they carried on. So we're going to do there. But so the Lib Dems basically and Labour are backing Hamza Yousaf and they want the destruction of free speech. However, on a side and related note, I'm just going to flick over to this story. This is in the Scotsman, as you see. Fergus Uing. Now, he speaks sense. He's one of the very, very few that do. But he's talking about these non-crime hate incidents that are recorded and put against your name, but of which you may not even be told. You would not even know that you have got these things against you. How would you know? They don't have to tell you. And he's saying that these are a perversion of justice. The former SNP minister compared the practice to something out of the writings of Franz Kafka. He's now an outspoken backbencher, and he said it was an abnegation of the right to a free trial in democracy, because you have this put against your name and there is no response. You can't have this put against your name and then say go to the court and have it removed, or even say no, before you put it against my name, let's have a trial to see if it was worthy of going. There is no due process. It's just simply name on a list. The secret police have got your name. This is Stasi-esque at the very least. Scotland is turning into the new East Germany, a police state, monitored, bereft of free speech, bereft of free expression, and where those who raise their head against the parapet will have their names taken, put in the book, and will be punished later. Don't tell him, Pike. Coming up. So there you have it. Yet another example of why the Lib Dems and the Labour are all in it together with the SNP. They all want to control. They all want absolute power. They don't want freedoms. They don't want democracy. They want total and utter control of every aspect. They want to micromanage every aspect of people's lives. They hate the idea that someone somewhere is saying something of which they do not approve. Screw them all. Thanks very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button. It really helps. We had a funny one. I'm going to say, this is weird. I did the good news story about Sterling Studios earlier, and someone unsubscribed. Maybe they don't like good news. I don't know. But do help. Resubscribe if you are yet to subscribe. Well, subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. And if you are the one person who unsubscribed, let me know why. What on earth would that be an unsubscribe point for? It's weird. Anyway, hit the like button. That really helps the video. And I will speak to you later. Thanks very much. Bye.